I told myself I was going to make a video of this intercooler installation, and I got ahead of myself. So mine's a little modified. As you can see, I have an Addictive Desert Design Stealth bumper with LED lights all wired up into it. I had to disconnect that bumper to remove it, disconnect the wiring to all my lights. I have a couple plugs on one side, one plug on the other. I had to disconnect the electrical connector to the actuator to the shutters on the current intercooler. This new Whipple intercooler is here. I will slowly get that installed. The hardest part so far has been lowering that very heavy bumper by myself. It pretty much stuck me to the floor and I had to roll over and lay it gently aside. So I also have already removed. This was my cruise control, adaptive cruise control box. Is originally setting right in this position with my bumper. I had already repositioned that. It is up here in the grill, back behind here. I had to remove a couple of shutters off the radiator. But slowly, it's all coming together. I'm gonna work through this, see my next steps, and I will restart. I have just lifted this, the louvers up off this, sitting up high, lifted that off. I just laid it down. I've got the little motor in there set up and connected, but it's got a zip tie on it, and I'm just going to let it sit aside because I think it's out of the way. There is the old that I'm going to be replacing. I think the next step is removing the bolts up underneath here. There used to be some rings on the both sides. When I installed my bumper, I had to cut those off so the new bumper would fit. As you can see, those have been removed. That's why it might look a little bit different. The next step up underneath here is removing these two big bolts on both sides. You can see where the intercooler is connected. These little wire connectors. It's just a matter of clicking it down. It lifts up, lifts the corners, the pins out, and it stays up on both sides. Then it just disconnects really easy. It just pops right off there. So really simple. Once it's on, just pop it back down into place. It's in place. So that's actually a lot easier than what the instructions make it out to be. But looking at it, it's fairly intuitive, makes sense. So I'm going to remove these bolts up here on both sides and lower this intercooler out of its position. At that time, I will remove some of these other parts, these little isolator washers and stuff, and put them on the new intercooler and slowly put it up in place. I think that's a decent shot of that. I'm not a cinematographer. These are pretty tight. I've already taken them off once whenever I put my bumper on. My biggest concern is having an aftermarket bumper. It appears everything's gonna fit okay, but my biggest fear is getting this intercooler on here and realizing that it will not fit with my Addictive Desert Design bumper. That's my biggest fear. I think it's gonna be okay. So far with this Bronco, most of my installations have gone rather smoothly. The other current project I'm working on right now is I've replaced all the factory speakers, focals in the back, and JL audios in the front. And most everyone's probably seen that thread. It's pretty well written. I do have the B&O sound system with the Lux package on this Wildtrak. Sounds a lot better. The only thing I have not finished is I have not finished putting in the Kicker 500.1 key amp or the subwoofer. I've pulled off the back panels and everything. They're laying over there in front of me. Got everything ready to go the other night. I just been waiting for better temperatures. It's 105 degrees out here today and it's just smoking hot. Turned my fan off so I could actually, if you could hear me, maybe made it a little bit quieter, but it is certainly warm. I pulled my amp out the other day to look at it and realized they had given me a something that's been returned, and some of the stuff wasn't in the box. It wasn't packaged up very well, and it had a big scrape against the side of it. So I opted to return that just because I don't want to take a chance on getting it all installed and something not working. Move my camera over here a little bit. See on this side. So that's supposed to arrive, I think, tomorrow or Saturday. And once that arrives, I will get that amplifier and that sub put up and put in. Not in a big rush, but it's just nice to do it when the weather is cooperating and it's not 100 degrees outside. Anyway, this is pretty boring. I did install the Whipple tune the other day. It's really impressive so far. Just arrived around the city. I don't have a Bronco for miles per gallon. I've driven off-road vehicles. I get it. I know I'm going to average 15 at the best, and I was okay with that. And that's pretty much what I run when I'm running. Before I tuned it, I was averaging probably 15 miles per gallon in the city running around. Now I'm not driving it easy and smooth and slowly, and I'm not going to eco mode. I'm doing my normal too high drive mode all the time, normal. And since I put the tune on 2 days ago, I've driven roughly 150 miles, but pleasantly surprised. The computer's showing about 17.8 miles per gallon. And so that's a welcome surprise. I'll take it. Not a big deal, but I'll take it. It's nice to see gas prices coming down here in Oklahoma City. Where I live, they're less than $4 a gallon. I think I saw it the other day for like $3.70 a gallon. Of course, with that tune, I'm using 91, so a little bit more expensive. It's usually around $4 for a good tier 1 gas. All right, once I pull these out, this whole thing is going to drop. It's already kind of hanging. Let's see if I can do it without it dropping on my head. It's not heavy by any means. It's just awkward. There goes one bolt. Definitely awkward. Not as awkward as taking off that front bumper and laying underneath it, letting it just slide down my body and then wrapping it up and slowly trying to lift it off my body. Skipped the gym today. That was a good wrestling match. All right. All right. I guess I will just, well, it'll just slide off. There it goes. Okay, now my intercooler is released. I'm going to pop these little latches on both sides and release it completely. Slide it off one edge. It's a little awkward. There it goes. One side off. Next side disconnected. And pop it off as well. Trying to be careful not to damage this just in case the other one doesn't work. God, that one's on tight. Other one popped off really easy. Maybe it's just the position of it. There it goes. Position-wise, that was just a little bit better that way. All right, it's off. Call time out for a minute. All right, I'll lay this next to the old one. You can see significantly bigger. A lot cleaner, a lot pretty looking. It is a lot thicker, and I am concerned about how that's going to fit behind my bumper now that I looked at it closely. But we'll see. I'm going to pull these isolating parts of stuff off and put it on this new one, and we'll see what we can do. Now the question is, that looks right. One side up, one side down. Put these on here. Take the bottom ones off as well. I haven't looked much further ahead in the instructions. I'm assuming that the factory louvers and everything will go back on there, but maybe not. Maybe that's the space difference if we remove those. Okay, I have those on. I'm gonna check my instructions and see what's next. There is a little plastic threaded clip. I noticed that this on the new intercooler is threaded, so I am not going to transfer that one little part over. Next step is trying to get this back in place by myself, because I do everything by myself, even though the instructions say use 2 people, because I'm impatient and I don't want to wait for anyone. So I tend to get myself into difficult spots, like I'm sure many others do, just ready to get it on, get it going. I'm going to put these on loosely so I can get everything kind of in place easier than it being on the ground or trying to hold it. All right. I just got to figure out what position this goes into now. Well, I just lifted that up in there very easily. I've got lightly, I don't have these screwed in all the way. I have a setting in there. The top grommets seem to be just sitting right there in the holes, so it's pretty close. I'm just going to be able to tighten these things up, and it'll slowly lift it up into place. And from that spot, I will make sure that everything lines up appropriately. But so far, so good. Did power wash everything off really good, so I'd have a lot less dirt. I think that helped a lot. I had a lot of stuff splashed back behind my other cooler. I did not have my brush guard on for a while, or not my brush guard, my skid plate. It was a little late coming in after the bumpers came in, so had that on for a little while, and I think that allowed some dirt and stuff to blow up around there. But the mud and everything is all washed off now. Everything looks great. These are lining up perfectly. A lot of space in the back, not a lot of space in the front, so I'm a little curious about my bumper finish. I'm assuming that these shutters are not going to go back on. Hardest part about aftermarket parts is how the aftermarket parts all fit together with other aftermarket parts. Like I said, I think I've been lucky so far. But this might be the end of my luck. If it doesn't fit, then I just won't use the louvers, no big deal. I think my bumper's got some little slits in it to allow the air to flow through, but it's by no means a direct shot right into the intercooler. I will ratchet these down. I do have a wrench. I'll measure my pressure on those here in just a little bit. Man, it snaps right in place like a glove. So nice. Pops right in. Retaining ring is back in place. Everything sits really nicely. That's beautiful. Okay. Pause for a minute. Actually, I'll bring the camera around. Sorry, I'm not the best cameraman. See where I'm connected all up there. Everything goes in really well. It's pretty clean. All right, on to the next steps. All right. What I found was a new bracket actually is useful because it is going to be placed right in the spot where those louvers were, and I can see now that I'm going to pull out that actuator and hook it onto here, but I'm not going to have any louvers, so it makes a lot more sense. I just have to take that apart, take the actuator off, and bolt it here to the side. I'll do that shortly. All right, next step is I have to remove this motor assembly from the louvers. I had to cut that retaining or that little zip tie there, and this looks like it's held on by a couple 8mm bolts. Pull those out real quick. From the other side, you can see those here. The instructions are not really clear. I got this from Lethal Performance. I've got multiple thanks from them. They've been great to work with, really helpful on stuff. But they had some videos talking about how they were excited about putting the Whipple equipment on their first edition Bronco, and they put it on. They did all the testing and stuff, but they never got back to showing any videos about installation or anything. So I could figure it out, but man, it sure makes it nice when someone's made a video just kind of walking through it, just to make it a little bit easier to visualize these instructions. I think sometimes are not the most clear, but I do have to say Diabolical Ink for my rear enclosure in the back of the Bronco. Dude, that guy, so impressive on his step-in-step instructions. Made it so easy to go along and get that installed with really minimal issues at all. It's super smooth, super easy, and I sure appreciate that, especially when everyone's as busy as they are trying to get stuff done. I like to do stuff myself. Figure the money I can save in installing stuff gives me more money to get new stuff, so I'm all about saving money and doing things my way, getting everything installed. Alright, I'm going to take a time out, figure out, it's a little U-retaining clip, there it is. That little plastic clip just comes off the edges of it. And this thing should just pop right out, yep. Eventually. Apparently I'm not holding my mouth right. Hard to disconnect that clip on both sides at the same time. There it goes. Alright, pull up the assembly. Pull these little louver pins out. A little bit tighter than I anticipated. Pause for a second, figure this out. Just have to pull those pins, the louvers, at the end of this little motor. You can see it. Once I pull that out, then the motor will be free. I can pull it out. All right, found a good way to do it. You just have to push these little fan blades backwards here, pop the end of it off, and when you do, it gives you room to pull that motor out, and then it'll come out from the other side the same way. There, got it. Now I just have to fish this out. Wires attached to a little clip there. All right, got that out. They supplied a couple of zip ties that were in a plastic bag by themselves, but I'll show you where this is gonna go. They just say to hook it right up here, and we're gonna zip tie it. There's a couple of holes in the top of that bracket right there. So I'm literally just gonna lay this up there, and I'm gonna zip tie it side to side and get it placed, and then I'm gonna secure that line a little bit better so it's up out of the way. All right, just like that. A couple of zip ties, I'll trim those things off so they are out of the way. Next thing, I'm gonna put these 8mm bolts all back in around this bracket so it's good and secure. And then I think for the most part, this thing's installed. I'll finish up the instructions just to double check everything, but everything lines up really nicely, at least on this side. So I'll get these all tightened up. And then we will move on to next steps if there are some, but that's nice and open. That's what I was hoping for. Good airflow through there. I don't know, with my Addictive Desert Design, these little flaps right here, the cutouts are the only flow of air. I'm sure that's enough whenever I'm driving to shoot some air up through that space, and then of course underneath that I have my skid plate, so there is not a lot of room for airflow. This having a lot more space though should help. And I guess I'm assuming if I'm going down the highway or you're driving anywhere, there's gonna be plenty of air blowing up through those vents. I could probably even bend them back a little bit more. I just wouldn't want any rocks flying up and damaging this thing. So I'm gonna pause this. All right, according to the instructions, I'm done. Of course, not having that adaptive cruise control sensor to replace here, that eliminated some of my final steps. My intercooler is now in place. Everything is torqued down tight to the specifications that they recommend. Everything looks in place. The clips underneath are really good. It does not sit it out any further, so my aftermarket bumper here will be able to pop back on there fairly easily tomorrow when I have help from my son. Other than that, it's drivable and ready to go. I'm looking forward to seeing what it does. Hope this helps. Sorry I didn't get started as soon as I needed to, but actually the whole process was a lot easier with the work that I've already done.